When should you hire a property manager? A lot of people ask, when should I hire a property manager? And honestly, there are a whole lot of reasons. The first reason is the person who reads a book like Rich Dad Poor Dad, gets excited about real estate investing, buys a rental property, then realizes they don't actually have the systems in place to manage it. They don't have tenant screening, they don't have a process for collecting rent, they don't have maintenance systems, they don't know how to handle turnover, and they don't know what to do when a tenant stops paying. And a lot of times they get stuck. Because staying at one rental property can honestly become the death of a landlord. Instead of growing and buying more properties, they spend all their time reacting to problems. Another big one is the landlord that slowly builds a portfolio over time. Maybe they bought one property a year for 5 years. They still have a full-time job, they got a family, they got friends, they have life outside of real estate. And eventually they realize they're spending all their evenings, weekends, dealing with maintenance calls, rent collection, turnover, leasing, bookkeeping, all while still trying to grow. At that point, it usually makes more sense to spend your time finding your next deal instead of managing every small issue yourself. Then you've got the accidental landlords. Maybe they inherited a property, maybe they moved for work but kept their house because they had a great interest rate, or maybe they just turned their former home into a rental. A lot of people never intended to become landlords in the first place and really quickly realize this business is a lot more operational than they expected. The one thing I see all the time is landlords waiting too long to hire a property manager. Usually the warning signs are pretty obvious. Profitability starts disappearing. Delinquency keeps increasing month after month. Vacancies stay open too long because they don't have time to coordinate make-readies and leasing, all while working their regular jobs. And when there's a mortgage attached to the property, every vacant month starts eating into their bottom line. Another mistake landlords make is becoming too emotionally attached to tenants. And listen, being friendly with tenants is not a bad thing, but sometimes landlords start letting little things slide because there's always a story. First it's one late payment, then another, and eventually the business side disappears. I also see landlords undercharging on rent because they're scared of losing tenants. But a lot of times that actually attracts weaker tenants and creates more long-term problems. When landlords finally decide to hire a manager, they often choose the cheapest one. And usually they learn pretty quickly that you get what you pay for. A good property manager costs money because good property management takes work. If a company charges too little, eventually corners will get cut somewhere. Now, on the flip side, bigger is not always better either. If a company has thousands of doors, sometimes owners with 1 or 2 properties become small fish and kind of an afterthought. You realize you can't get answers, you don't know who your point of contact is, everything feels kind of siloed. But if a company is too small, that can also create problems. They might not have the systems in place. They might not have proper reporting. They might not have enough staff to properly handle maintenance and tenant communication. So when you interview a property manager, don't just ask about the management fee. Ask about how maintenance is handled. Ask how work orders are communicated. Ask about monthly reporting or who your point of contact will be. Ask how often you'll hear from them. One story that really stands out for me was an owner who came to us with 16 units. The previous management company was of a more budget friendly. The property was only 75% occupied and some of them were Section 8 tenants in abatement, so payments had stopped. The vacant units were reportedly ready, but were nowhere close to being ready. We came in, cleaned out bad tenants, fixed the abatement issues, completed the make-ready properly, improved safety in the property, and even added in-unit laundry. Once the property itself improved, better tenants actually wanted to live there. That's something a lot of people miss. Good property management isn't just rent collection, it's improving the asset itself. Now, one thing landlords underestimate about self-managing is this. When things are good, they're good. But when it rains, it pours. Suddenly, People stop paying, maintenance issues happen at the same time, tenant communication piles up, bookkeeping falls behind, late fees needed added, checks need deposited, health inspections become an issue if repairs aren't handled quickly, and before you know it, it becomes a second full-time job, especially if you don't already have systems in place. At the end of the day, I think the question really comes down to this: what is your goal? If your goal is to personally self-manage forever and that's going to become your full-time focus, that's completely fine. But if your goal is building long-term wealth, then a property manager should be part of your team. Bake the cost of management into the cost of doing business. Use property managers as a resource to help you grow. And spend your time finding the next opportunity instead of getting buried in the day-to-day operations. The biggest thing is finding the right team. Interview property managers carefully. Have multiple conversations and don't rush into the decision, because the right property manager can help you build wealth and the wrong one can absolutely hold you back or destroy your wealth. If you're an investor in the Kansas City area and you are trying to decide whether it's time to stop self-managing, we'd love to have a conversation with you at VP Property Management. We work with investors that want to grow long-term wealth, not just to collect rent month to month. Whether you have one property or you're growing a portfolio, our goal is to help you maximize your investment, improve operations, attract better tenants, and free up your time so you can focus on building your future. Reach out to VP Property Management today. Let's talk about whether your property and your goals are right fit for our team.